Was there a Glamrock Foxy? No. Okay, well, if we're going off of the blunt facts, no, there has never been a reported instance of a Glamrock Foxy. There has been a Foxy mentioned in the Tales of the Pizzaplex, sort of, but even he wasn't labeled as a Glamrock Foxy, and really only mentioned in an arcade cabinet. So, no official instance of him being acknowledged or name-dropped. So, what's the point of this video? Well, I was thinking about something involving Foxy and some of the merchandising around the Mega Pizzaplex and Security Breach, Help Wanted 2, and even Ruin, and it occurred to me that maybe that no is not as cut and dry if we replace that was there with a could there have been. This is not just a look at the non-existent Glamrock Foxy, but the branding of Foxy the Pirate as a whole post the classic era. So where do we begin? Well, let's start with the original Foxy of the classic era, or as far back as we are aware. The Freddy band dynamic from Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was that Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica were a tight unit band, with Foxy being the extra, off behind a curtain on another stage out of the way. That's not to say that the four weren't a band advertised together, but it was notable that Foxy was the odd one out, for numerous reasons. He is the only one with specific theming, being the pirate theme. He is the roughest of the bunch compared to how soft and round the others are, and apparently he could run like a track star. And considering this is depicted in the Go Go Foxy minigame with Foxy running into a party of children, it's likely this was a feature at the pizzeria before eventually getting canned when they stopped letting animatronics wander around. Nowhere is this separation and role clearer than in the Fredbear and Friends TV show, of which we've only gotten a few glimpses of through the Security Breach teasers and on various merch found in the games. The merch somewhat validating that this depiction in the teasers is correct, though when this current cartoon released and if it's the same one featured in Fnaf 4 is unclear. The one from Fnaf 4 is Fredbear and Friends, and this one is Fredbear and Friends on tour, so it's likely this was a spin-off show, but again, the date of release is unknown. That doesn't matter. What does matter is that in this cartoon, Foxy is depicted as a villain. Though not as a true evil mastermind, but as a goofy pirate looking to spite Freddy and friends, but who is easily brought to the side of good from a friendly offer to share some pizza. So not a true bad guy, but a temporary antagonist who becomes a friend, and seems to line up remarkably with Foxy's placing and depiction in the band. This also explains the pirate thing, having Foxy be a pizza thief. But regardless of his slight separation from the main cast, Foxy seemed to be a beloved character both in-universe and out of it, even though often depicted as being out of service. And yet, throughout the years, there were numerous efforts to soften Foxy up. With the toy line, he was made pink and white and had a doll-like face, before the whole mangling thing. Funtime Foxy kept parts of this design with more open and expressive eyes, and in both cases, pirate theming was dropped. With the Rockstar animatronics, Foxy the Pirate proper was brought back, but considering the secret meaning and use of the pizzeria, it makes you wonder if the Rockstars were made exclusively to be burned, and theming wasn't so important. But Foxy was still a constant and consistent character with significant popularity, to the point where as of whenever Help Wanted takes place, Foxy seems to have had a little bit of a spin-off of his pirate adventures, as depicted in his pirate ride. Later on, this is confirmed in his further log ride and advertisements. But as Freddy's brand grew, Foxy was able to have his own solo adventures. Think a Shrek and Puss in Boots situation. But it was around the time of the Pizzaplex's opening, assumedly, that something peculiar happened. While the main band have gone through variations in the past, toys, rock stars, etc., they aren't often totally rebranded. Such as how the Glamrocks exist and have their own branding, but there's still plenty of classic Freddy and Friends merch and references all throughout the Pizzaplex. However, Foxy alone went through a significant change as, for the first time in known Freddy's history, Foxy shirked off his pirate's coat and put on a cowboy hat. Captain Foxy was rebranded into Cowboy Foxy, or Sheriff Foxy perhaps. From scurvy on the deep blue to riding high through the orange canyons, it was a major shakeup. Even beyond like Toy and Funtime Foxy, as this was changing the core character. And we know this rebranding happened right around the Pizzaplex's conception, as he is accompanied by Glamrock Chica in saloon girl garb, while in the Captain Foxy Dark Ride he was accompanied by mermaid Toy Chica. This was a recent change. Not only did Cowboy Foxy have birthday-themed standees, which likely suggested they probably had stylized party rooms at some point, but he had a log ride and a large section of the Pizzaplex devoted to this Western theming. This was a significant shakeup. But it didn't last. As shown in Ruin, Foxy's log ride was deconstructed and, in its place, or above it, was instead mounted Roxy Raceway, which, in hindsight, probably wasn't a smart move. Probably all that moisture isn't helping things with the whole sinkhole situation. But with the arrival of Roxy Raceway, all of the Cowboy Foxy branding was scrubbed away. In fact, Captain Foxy made his return, but not at the Raceway. Instead, his face was moved to Kids Cove and the Superstar Daycare, which are both styled with similar seaside theming. And thus, Captain Foxy made his grand return. So, what does this have to do with Glamrock Foxy? A whole lot. Let's start with that main band, the Glamrocks. The earliest known version of the Glamrock band consisted of Glamrock Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and new character Roxanne Wolf. During the whole missing rabbit debacle, Glamrock Bonnie became decommissioned and Monty took his place as a temporary understudy before filling in his role completely. It's remarkable how quickly they covered up Glamrock Bonnie's presence and made it seem like Monty was always the bassist. Someone coming into the Pizzaplex now wouldn't notice him missing unless they went up to Bonnie Bowl and noticed the lack of Bonnie on the stage. So, couldn't that have happened to a Glamrock Foxy as well? Yes, but also no. Because while on the surface Glamrock Bonnie is MIA, we see a lot of hints about him. Kids are asking about him. He has a stage he is not present on. Cassie finds plenty of merch on him, and even Freddy mentions him a couple of times. So, not just in-game but in a meta sense, with all these hints towards Bonnie, I feel like if there was a Glamrock Foxy, this would have been mentioned somewhere. Most notably during the note that mentions Bonnie getting temporarily replaced by Monty, which then became permanent. Nobody mentions any replacement from Foxy to Roxy. If that had happened, you would think they would mention it here. Well, we replaced Foxy, why don't we do it again? Fazbear Entertainment tries to make things they want gone disappear, but narratively we still find remains of them. Because elsewise, they do not exist, you see. Like, if we didn't see any information on Glamrock Bonnie, then to us he as a concept would not exist. So likewise, Glamrock Foxy be unaccounted for. Captain Foxy be unaccounted for. But another thing that makes me think that there wasn't a Foxy to be replaced is that Roxy is clearly designed to be a Foxy replacement. From certain features to the name to the relation, it's obvious. And unlike Monty, who had an attraction alongside the other animatronics, and Bonnie, whose attraction survived after his decommissioning, there is no evidence that Foxy himself was a fixture at the Pizzaplex. I would say that if there was any form of Foxy whatsoever, the most likely possibility would to be one of those Foxy standard animatronics at the log ride, like in the Help Wanted levels. But if that was the case, it would have likely been present in the Daycare. But back to Roxy. Roxy started as a character meant to replace Foxy, and then quite literally did replace Foxy, as her attraction covered up his. Her raceway is built over his log ride, and the Desert Canyon theming of it is likely recycled from the Western Foxy attraction. All that really had to happen was some aesthetic changes, but it saved the place from having to be a total gut job. There's also a theory that Roxy is Foxy and got the concept unification treatment into her. But considering how Fazbear Entertainment pretty much switches out endos on a whim, I would say that in the case Foxy was replaced, they likely would have either stuck him somewhere else and started fresh, or retired him permanently. The effort to make him into Roxy would be too much when Fazbear Entertainment is willing to throw out entire bots on a whim. Remember, the only reason that Freddy wasn't immediately replaced, as per Vanessa's threat, was that there wasn't another Freddy casing, or there wasn't another Freddy casing slapped onto an endoskeleton. So, to reiterate, Captain Foxy was rebranded to Cowboy Foxy and got a log ride attraction to match. But then the log ride was disassembled and Roxy Raceway replaced it, and Cowboy Foxy reverted to Captain Foxy. This suggests to me that the Western theme rebranding flopped in one way or another, and I think I know why based on what replaced him and where Foxy was placed next. Last we left Captain Foxy, he set sails for Kids Cove and the Superstar Daycare. Is that because they share similar theming? Well, no, because I believe that the Daycare's theming is a direct result of moving Foxy over there. I believe the Daycare was rethemed to match Foxy, for the most part. Notice how the Daycare has so much beach and seaside theming branding even though the daycare attendant is so far from the ocean that he's literally the embodiment of the celestial body affecting the tides? Well, this is because I believe that after all this moving of Foxy and the failed attempt to make him a cool cowboy, Fazbear Entertainment likely realized that instead of bringing in a substantial new audience, they had just lost the one that they had. I think that Foxy was rebranded because pirates weren't cool enough for the wider and older audience that they were trying to reach with the super rad mega Pizzaplex. So they tried an Indiana Jones-esque Western theme to make Foxy hip with the kiddies. But instead of wowing a new audience, they just confused or lost the ones they had. It doesn't help that in a Pizzaplex where so much is touted as high-tech, heart-pounding action and blasting off at the speed of rock, a log ride is remarkably sluggish, especially if it's one that's also a shooting gallery. You're basically meandering around a track, and depending on when these attractions went up, it might have been rivaled by the Monty coaster. Of course, being that there is no entrance to the Monty coaster, and by all accounts, it doesn't exist outside of a part of the basement and above Monty Golf, it wasn't much of a competition. But my point still stands. Foxy was replaced by someone who fit that cutting-edge coolness, and with a faster attraction that was much more oh my god. Just everything in the house decided it was going to start making noises right then. But my point still stands. Foxy was replaced with someone who fit that cutting-edge coolness, and with a faster attraction that was much more in demand, and that likely had a higher price of admission. So, what happened to Foxy? Well, if Foxy was seen as a little kid's mascot, then that's what he was going to become. He was reverted to his pirate roots, and the daycare was made to match his branding, likely because his face is a lot friendlier than the moon's menacing grin. This way they could have their cake and eat it too. Foxy's face is still up in the Pizzaplex and the little tykes love him, but he's not taking up space for the totally rad and super cool new edition of Roxanne Wolf. And this is why there is no Glamrock Foxy currently. Because I think this rebranding happened after the daycare was conceived. So the daycare attendant was already there, and the attraction had an animatronic. There wasn't a place for Foxy, as the only thing in there not manned by Sun and Moon are the party rooms. There is absolutely no evidence that there was a Glamrock Foxy, but if we take into account this process of rebranding and the knowledge that Bonnie was so seamlessly replaced by Monty, then we could, I suppose, if we really stretched, say, maybe. There's a good argument that maybe there was initially a Foxy and that he was replaced, but I don't think there was. Taking all this into account, here's what I think happened. I think that the Mega Pizzaplex opened with Roxy as the newest member of the Glamrock band, and as a replacement/newest iteration of Foxy, explaining why they have so many similarities. While Roxy is a wolf, she is by design an offshoot of Foxy. But Fazbear Entertainment was concerned that a new character wouldn't attract as much attention and merch sales as an established classic, so they kept Foxy's branding in the Pizzaplex in case Roxy didn't take off. But in the Pizzaplex, which is trying to be hip and reach the widest demographic possible, Captain Foxy was deemed too childish, and they tried to rebrand him to the Indiana Jones Cowboy Foxy. Due to the major switch-up in character, this might have confused some audience or turned them off, but more than likely it was the success of Roxy that sealed Foxy's fate. Fazbear Entertainment decided to go full steam ahead with replacing Foxy's likely sluggish log ride with the fast motor mayhem of the go-kart track, and shelve old reliable Foxy for the cutting-edge Roxy. But they didn't get rid of Foxy entirely. Realizing that there was still a market for him, a younger one, they moved into the daycare as a softer alternative to the Sun and Moon, who, let's be frank, it doesn't matter how much candy they're giving out, are going to scare the daylights out of kids. So, Was there a Glamrock Foxy? Yes. Yes, there actually was. And her name is Roxanne Wolf. Thank you for watching. Now, I was going to originally cut this out of the video. I decided at the last second to tack this on. I have to address the books. Yeah, I know. Recently, I have tried to talk about the books as little as possible, but I know they'll get brought up, so let me quickly debunk them. As far as I'm aware, Foxy is only mentioned in the Tales of the Pizzaplex books, and in the Pizzaplex in like a couple of throwaway lines. Once as having a coaster, and in a name drop once. Maybe there were more instances, but as far as I'm aware, there was only one time, and I really don't want to go scouring for a reason I will explain in a minute. In The Monty Within, the story where a teenager mind melds with Monty Gator, there is a brief mention of Foxy. Somewhere in the middle of the story, before big bully and murderous monster Monty decides to play an Uno reverse card, there's like a food fight game, and at some point during it, there was Foxy and Roxy food fighting together as partners, and some folks took this as being a confirmation that Foxy's at the Pizzaplex. But Orville the Elephant is also in the game, and apparently, unlike all of the other mediocre melodies, as claimed in the story, he hasn't had a single appearance anywhere since the name-dropped Pizzeria Simulator. So, yeah. But, since I'm here, here's my reasons for not relying on the books. 1. Chica is described as yellow in one story. This led to a headcanon that Glamrock Chica used to be yellow, but since Fazbear Frights described animatronics wrong, such as a notable instance of describing Ballora as the wrong colors, I wouldn't hold your breath at the lore implications. 2. Moon is mistakenly referred to as Moondrop for the entirety of the Somniphobia story, or whatever that was called. 3. DJ Music Man just regularly barges into bathrooms despite not being in bouncer mode. 4. The Bobby Dots apparently takes place during Security Breach, as Abe just is running around in the basement and casually runs into Shattered Chica, and leaves, never seeing anything else amiss. And before you say this is a completely different Shattered Chica, just think of the implications of that one. 5. The Monty Within says that the Pizzaplex opened up a year after Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. You know, the one that burned down and is buried underneath the Pizzaplex? Yeah, sure. Even if they worked as hard as they possibly could to put this place up, that would mean Fazbear Entertainment would have had to rebuild itself because it pretty much didn't exist from what we know of Pizzeria Simulator. It had to rebuild itself completely from the ground up, get through all the legal implications, open up this massive building, and have it in a fully functional condition in a year, and also bury an entire pizzeria underneath it. Yeah, I don't think that happened. 6. The Mimic's most iconic suit is the White Tiger Elvis suit, as it reminds him of a white tiger plush from his tragic backstory, which was certainly not a lost in translation of the lion suit he actually wears in-game. Also, he's a jester now. So yeah, no, I won't take this singular instance of Foxy's existence as a confirmation. Once again, thank you for watching.